not your family, or sometimes even family, weren't so kind about that. You know, people didn't say the things out loud, but they had issues. You know, if you as and adults would sometimes pass those issues on to the younger kids, you know, and at times I did feel like I was a bit ostracized at times, you know, that thing of whether it be family or from the community or whatever, jy dink jy's mooi, you know, that thing, or jy nie my sê jy dink jy's wat, or you know that thing.
And also, given Vania, like, you know, you're an educated woman, and so you know what it's like to hold your own in, let's, for the lack of a better example, westernized spaces, you know, and so you at the table regardless, because that's just the way you speak, and so I can imagine for that you also got a lot of, like, you know, flack for.
Yeah, luckily in our circles also, I think at school it was a little bit worse, because the schools I attended, they were, you know, when kids had to come from the surrounding neighborhoods with a bus, and you know, so we weren't all just from, and I wasn't from, I attended school in Kales River, but I lived in Bellville. But my father was an educator at the school, so I traveled with him naturally, primary and high school. And then you were perceived almost as a witbroodjie, you know, teacher's pet or whatever. En nou het jy nog lang hare. But you know what was my savings grace was, you know, that divide, which is so unfortunate, but it really was real. And Dalmary, maybe more so you will identify with this than Deirdre, but that divide between the English kids and the Afrikaans kids. Right? I mean, it was so unnecessary, but it really was real. It was, say again?
And they were always the A class. There must always be an A, B, and C class.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I was like in 10F or something like that. But I used to get, and this was my savings grace, besides the fact that most of the kids I attended school with, who were very nasty, were the kids in my class and vice versa, that struggle. But I was at Sunday school with a lot of my Afrikaans peers, you know, so we saw each other in another space. And I always had Afrikaans first language from standard 6 to matric. So when my register class, like we used to call it, would go to Afrikaans second language, I would break away from them and be in a first language Afrikaans class. And I mean, I built such beautiful relationships that still is alive today, you know, and that kind of, it was touch and go there, but that really saved me from that feud, shall I say, and rather made me a mediator.
For sure.
in amongst my peers.
Sorry, this is so off the topic, but I found it very interesting, you know, because most kids do that are English first language do Afrikaans additionele taal. So
yes.
Why that you did it as a first language? Is it because your parents held a high regard for the language, or?
Absolutely. I think most of my cousins also did that. We, because Afrikaans is such, it's our mother tongue, you know, we moved to Cape Town and we are all English speaking, but we are all bilingual, you know, Afrikaans at heart, but they wanted us to go the English route academically. And, but they were never, ever, ever going to allow us to let Afrikaans fall by the wayside. It's a beautiful language. It's, you know, it's our culture. It's our language. And coming from the Northern Cape, how embarrassing would it have been if I could not hold my own in that space?
No, that's so interesting to me, because, like, you know, for many years there's been this, you know, this wrestle and debate with, like, you know, Afrikaans being a, you know, a foreign language imposed upon a people group, you know. And I didn't understand the value of Afrikaans, honestly, until I met, you know, Relensha. Shout out to Relensha. And, you know, Relensha is also from the Northern Cape. And until I heard her speak pride and dignity about her people and where she's from and why Afrikaans is why she holds Afrikaans so dear. Only did I get that, you know, as much as we want to say it's a foreign language, there's an entire people group that dignifies Afrikaans as their mother tongue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then let me add to that and just say, at one point in the media, Afrikaans people from the Northern Cape and Afrikaans people of color, you know, hailing from the Northern Cape, were depicted as only domestic workers, always had kids out of wedlock, 5, you know, at a very early age, werkers, and very dependent on men. But to add injury to insult, the dialect was also always misconstrued. Afrikaans in the Northern Cape is it's so pure. It's such a beautiful language. But the media, through old stories like koöperasie stories or whatever, would depict people speaking a dialect that wasn't actually real. It wasn't really indicative. I mean, the Northern Cape has so many educated people and successful ones as such, you know, as such. But
eyes is like, and this is something I realized. So my friend's grandmother, she's from the Northern Cape. And, you know, I loved her. Like, when she was alive, I would sit and just, like, you know, feed off every word she spoke. And one of the biggest things I learned from her, which the media hasn't taught us, is that many educators come from the Northern Cape, like many teachers and principals. And, you know, lecturers, people with backbones in education come.
Absolutely.
From the Northern Cape. And that is not celebrated. Like, that is not even known, you know. It's like, that's just not the narrative we were taught.
Correct. And it's sad. And so it is our responsibility, and those of us that are young enough to still be raising smaller kids, you know, we have to ensure that we keep the language alive, and it's our decision which part or which angle of the language we want to keep alive, because let's face it, there are many dialects, you know, there's, whether it's colloquialism, whether it's whatever, whichever part you want to keep alive, we have to. Our kids cannot not be able to speak Afrikaans in this day and age. I mean, we actually have to move past that. English and Afrikaans should be so natural. We should be working on 3rd and 4th languages.
For sure.
So this beautiful woman, I think Vania's beautiful mom. Just gonna keep her there for a bit. Vania, about your mom. Tell us a little bit about your mom and your best lessons learned from Mama Bear.
For those who don't know, this is Vania's mom a few years ago. Vania, this is your 21st, no?
Yeah.
Vania's hey guys, looks this fabulous. Like, Vania's mother is just, I look at the woman and she's ageless. She carries an air about her that's just poised and just glamorous and fabulous. But Vania, tell us about your mom.
Deirdre, everything you just said now in a nutshell, that is so spot on. And you know what? To be the daughter of a woman like that is very difficult. It's very hard. My mother has standards that no one can meet, you know? So I'm constantly lambasting myself, criticizing myself that I am falling short, you know, at the heels of my mother, or her heart's desires for me, because she's still one of those very, very involved parents. She's a mother who will speak her mind. She is a mother who is supportive. She's there. She's a powerhouse, you know, whether it be in creativity. I mean, she was my first beauty editor, if I could call it that. Everything I know about creativity or skincare or cooking or decor or needlework for that matter. I mean, in lockdown, she made it a point that she wanted to teach me how to use the sewing machine and wanted to teach me how to crochet. And I was like, teach my daughter. I get linker fingers. I just can't crochet for the life of me. Why couldn't we just knit scarves at least? But all of that aside, my mother is a very passionate person. She's a very hardworking person. Lessons I've learned from her is really deursettingsvermoë. And I've really learned to love unconditionally, just based on the example that she has set. 4 years ago, we lost my dad to diabetes, and before the good Lord had come and fetched him, my mother really taught me something about living a selfless life. You know, she put her whole world on hold, shall I say, to care for my dad. She retired to be with him at home, and it was very difficult. His illness was difficult. All the daily challenges that it came with was very taxing on my mother, but she was so content, and she soldiered through his illness for so many years. And I mean, I can only thank God for that, and for the example that she has set for us and continues to set. And I mean, I'll draw it closer to today and say, in this lockdown period, if I think of my mother, she is forever saying, my kinders, julle moet die geluk by die ongeluk vind. And that is so beautiful, because really in this time, say again?
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so in this time of crisis, in this time, this unknown time, when our fears are heightened, when our emotions are heightened, when we lived a life thinking we knew what tomorrow would bring, but we didn't. If you think about it, you actually didn't know what tomorrow, because whatever plans you had set out for yourself, or goals or whatever, you were only going to meet it anyway if your maker had already decided that is what you were going to, achieve, or that is the path you're gonna walk. No matter what you plan today, it's not necessary that all of it is going to work out. So, but now in this lockdown space, we feel like we have no control, because the little bit of control that we did have has been taken away from us. But the one thing that can never be taken away from you is the ability to control your mind, your positivity, your heart, you know. And so om die geluk by die ongeluk te vind is just so befitting to this time. So moenie in 'n groef val nie. My father would always say, moenie in 'n groef verval nie, of dieper in 'n sloot val nie, pick yourself up. And yeah, when I think about that, my mother is a motivator and a woman of God and strength.
That's such a beautiful testament also just to our parents, as a whole. Like, I had a conversation with my dad a few weeks ago just about, like, our party and whatever. And my dad said this words that stuck with me. He said, jy moet nie vergeet nie, my kind. Uit 'n lewe wat van ons af weggevat was, het ons 'n lewe gebou. And it's that testament of, like, your parents coming also from the Northern Cape to uncharted territory.
Absolutely.
In life. And also in an unknown territory, and so that's such a beautiful testament to your mother, that she is able to find the geluk in the ongeluk, because I'm sure, she's had many, many days and years of ongeluk, and even in those moments, found the happiness. Even with your dad.
Yes.
In those moments, she cherished those last years with your dad, even though it was difficult, because she was able to find a sense of herself within that, and that is so beautiful.
Yeah, true.
So beautiful. Also, you always say your mom has high standards. I remember when I met your mom the first time, I could tell she had high standards. Like, when someone just drives low-key fear into you, because you can just know, you can't hold up a candle to that flame, And, but
seriously,
there's such testaments of that. Like, when I think of you and Avina, I don't know Tamar as well, but I know, like, when you walk into a room, you do command a room in a very poised sense of, like, okay, we have arrived. And I think that truly is the embodiment of your mother. Like, your mother walks into a room, quietly commands a room,
That's true. Very true. Thank you, Deirdre.
So, Vania, one of the questions I want to ask, and, I think specifically with regards to, being a daughter of a woman coming from the Northern Cape, being from that lineage, what are some of the things you want to autocorrect about the story that has been told about them over the years?
I want to autocorrect that as colored women, we are in actual fact independent. We don't need a man behind us to give us a life. We are passionate, we are creative, so we can do whatever we set our minds to, you know. This thing of we are weak and need the stronger sex next to us to make decisions and actually start our lives with is not true. It's not true. I want to autocorrect and say that my younger self, for argument's sake, would most certainly have wanted to take more risks and not be as conservative as my parents were, in the sense that calculated risks are necessary. It's necessary to push yourself and to fail and to get up, because that's how you learn, you know. But by far, we are very, very strong individuals that harbor so much on our shoulders and our backs that your neighbor or family or the next person doesn't even know about, because you're doing it with so much grace, and you're doing it because you're a soldier, a warrior who's just soldiering on.
For sure. True. That's so, so true. If you could pinpoint like the biggest lesson you've learned just growing up, you know, as a woman of color in the media, in your journey, what is the biggest, you know, biggest struggle or obstacle you've had to face?
In media?
Or even just in life? Like,
just in life.
Growing up as Vania.
As Vania specifically, let me put it to you this way. If there's one thing I really would want to change about my upbringing, and I just touched on it previously, is definitely that conservative space that I was in. I was very much, I consider myself a go-getter, and more so in the earlier years. And I could have achieved a lot, you know, but because there was this caution that was always thrown to the wind, you know, that a single early 20s young female shouldn't buy property. You know, you have to wait for a partner, of vir die regte man wat vir jou vat, you know, in high school or whatever. I wish I could undo all of that, because that is the furthest from the truth. You know, don't wait on anyone to live your dreams. Don't be dictated to. If in your heart you feel ready, then seize the opportunity. Why not?
That's so interesting that you say that, because like I come from a conservative family as well, and I watch, and you and Dao are, you know, the same generation children. I've watched my sisters have to really like fight against that, you know, and I also want to honor you guys for really fighting that, because, you know, along came the Avinas and the Deirdres of the world, and the same was walk through the doors that you guys really fought down where conservatism is concerned, and I can honestly say that it is liberating, because you guys fought fast. You know, it's really I literally could just dance through the doors that my sisters opened for me, because they, you know, they had to learn those hard lessons. That it's like, you know what, with this property, had I not believed, you know, that I had to wait for the lack of a better example, not to hate on men, but for a man, you know. And so now at this generation, we can celebrate you guys and really thank you guys for that, because we are only starting to scrape the surface of those truths, you know, that you can live now.
And now we can all learn together, because the future just presents, you know, more challenges. And even though there's always a platform and a basis and a foundation that we just are continuously building on. But there's always, you know, the world is so fast paced now. There's new things coming to the fore, and we have all reached that age where now we are again peers. You know, growing up, there might have been that division, but now we are sisters once again, you know, and definitely I would use the word peers again, so we can teach each other, because I learn from my younger siblings so much. I mean, on a daily basis, I can never go through this life and not admit to that. I don't have all the answers. I might have paved the way for a lot of what happened in our home and, you know, other avenues, but I learn so much from them on the daily and seek advice from them, and I appreciate that I have that, you know.
That's the beauty of the sphere that I guess the age group that we are in now, also as sisters, you know. We are at an adult phase, like, you know, where we are open to grow together.
Yes.
It's so funny. I was just looking at Koi Geek. That's Ronel, right? The Koi Geek.
That's Ronel. Shout out Ronel. I love Ronel.
Oh, like, she does so much for just, like, you know, liberating, like, you know, the narrative of women of color.
Absolutely.
And she Vania's biggest cheerleader. And in the same way, like, you know, there are so many little sisters like myself who I'm the cheerleader of older sisters, eh? And I don't think I often get to say that to our older sisters. Like, you know, you guys really, we look up to you guys. Like, you know, you guys have done so much for us in terms of paving a way. I don't think we often pay honor to that truth, you know. Even to my older sister Dalthea, like, I don't often pay that tribute to my Titi for what she's done, you know, for us. So I just acknowledge that on behalf of your sisters, that I'm sure they are your biggest cheerleaders, Vania.
Thanks. That's true. That's very true.
To describe the colored female, Vania.
Strong, passionate, creative.
Oh, yes.
Agile of all trades.
Indeed.
And masters of many. That was 4. What did I say? Passionate, strong, creative, and just I mean really an inspiration. An inspiration, absolutely. Because from all walks of life, at the end of the day, a lot of us walk different paths. But at the end of the day, more so today, we are here to be an inspiration, if not just to ourselves, because first and foremost, you know, you have to be proud of yourself before you can make someone else proud. Same too with inspiring someone else. So yeah, I think the colored female is so creative because we have had to be.
Yeah.
And we come from spaces, and if I just look at my mom and her sisters and my aunts and whatever, they can do so much more than what we are able to do today. You know, they're so talented, whether it be in linguistics, whether it be in the kitchen, whether it really, I mean, if I listen to my mother of how they used to make their own clothes and how they grew their own gardens, I mean, my ma se hande staan vir niks verkeerd nie, you know, and I can just, I want to embody all of those characteristics and adjectives, and I want to be that for my daughter.
We really have had to come from I always like to say, think on your feet spaces. As colored women and women of color, we come from the think on your feet spaces, and that has taught us to, you know, really lay hold of creativity. Also, one of the other things that I discovered like a few months ago, because I'm on this whole journey of, like, you know, researching Khoisan people, and, like, you know, just, you know, because there's a lot of talks and contingency around, you know, are people of color Khoi or San, like, you know, and do we embrace
yes.
that? And one of the most beautiful character traits that, I don't know why it makes me emotional, that I didn't realize was that Khoisan people were considered hunter-gatherers. And when you look at people of color, we are hunter-gatherers by nature. We know how to hunt, we know how to gather, and we know how to make things of nothing, you know? And I just...
And provide.
And provide, you know? and truly, truly provide.
I think of creativity. A thought comes to mind now. I think of so many 21st and weddings we get at. You know, my mom believed ek en Deirdre kan decorations doen. Ons was decor queens
Ja,
geweest.
die kyk out of 2-liter bottles.
Oh,
To get at malls and venues, and there is nothing to do decor with. And
yeah.
we would be sitting in the gardens and in the yards, and we would find things that by the end of our hard work, I would say, and I would go like, oh my God, where did this come from? You know,
Exactly.
that is how our parents have just made us to be. So think out of the box, you know, make something out of nothing.
Creating magic with virtually nothing. Yeah.
Yes. You know, even in our cooking ways, you know,
Yes.
when there is sometimes nothing in the kitchen to really cook with, by the time we are done, you would have
It's a masterpiece.
I often feel at most like my mom, because as you know, my mom is Alzheimer's, you know, and so my mom was just the most phenomenal chef of life that could make things out of nothing. And so I feel close to her when I'm at that month in Cassis and there's nothing and I make something fabulous out of it, because that truly is a testament of the lineage from which we come. You know, we come from a people who are creative with the most limited resources.
Absolutely. And also I feel like today, like it's not embarrassing to get to the end of the month. It's also not supposed to be a chore. It's actually, that's when you can live in your creative space and actually say, I've only got half a green onion and ek wil not this spice klaar gebruik, and I've never actually paired it with whatever. And at the end of the day, having such a wonderful, satisfying meal, then how can you not be proud? And how can you not embrace that space? Because, I mean, none of us are here to be wasteful any longer in any event. We can't be. It's just sacrilege, and it's just, it's bad. I don't want to be in that space. So I try to use everything that I've got, but enjoy it with sheer satisfaction. Daar sien meer van daai, ek het net that end of the month salty crack. If I only have salty cracks, I also enjoy it op sy tyd alone with nothing.
Exactly.
Why is TK Van Loo phoning me while I'm in this interview? Shout out, TK.
You know, sorry, I just wanted to touch on the whole thing of like, you know, again, your mommy's words is gonna ring with me, and that's gonna become my mantra for the next lockdown period.
TK is adamant she wants to talk. How do I switch that off? So you completely broke up. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so before Instagram kicks us out, because we have 1:51. Instagram is almost scored.
Sure.
Vania, if you had parting words for younger Vanias, what would you say? And you know, give us your last parting words to the next generation.
Younger upcoming Vanias.
This is gonna sound like such a cliche, eh? But really love yourself, and honestly love yourself, and really don't give so much energy and power to the next person. You know, when we were growing up, we also had to care so much about what this auntie and uncle had to say, or what they would think about you, or whatever. Put all of that out of your mind. Be true to yourself. Follow the passions that is really in your heart. If your parents want you to study law and that's not where your headspace is, don't do it. You know, don't think about money. Think about what makes you happy, because there's really something to be said for if you're doing something that makes you happy, the rest will fall into place. But also make provision for the future. Save. My father always taught me to save, and I was so grateful in my adult life when crisis came about or whatever, that I always had a nest egg to rely on, because I really was a true saver. As much as I squandered, I also saved. And then before you are too old live your life, have fun. It's wonderful. You have to work hard and you have to be passionate, and you really have to put everything into what you want to achieve. But you also don't want to grow old and stand back and look at your old self, 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 at your old